Pasuk Yud, Chovov Yud. He bringing the new fruits, the new grains, to the location of the Migdosh, the Temple Mount. And he concludes, Vato hine vesi es reishis pri adamo, asher nosata li Hashem. And now I brought to you the first of the fruits of the earth, which you have given me, Hashem. V'inach lefnei Hashem Elokecho. You put it before Hashem, the basket. V'shtachvish lefnei Hashem Elokecho. And after you put the basket down, you prostrate yourself. This is in the sanctuary. V'samachtem chol hatov. Asher nosel Hashem Elokecho leisecha. And you rejoice in all the good that Hashem has given to you in your household, your family. So over here, Rashi in Yud Aleph explains what's the Samachtum Chalatov. Mikan Omro in Koren Mikra Bikurim Ela Bizman Simcha. When do you make the declaration of the Bikurim? The Bikurim always have to be brought. As we'll see today in the Gemara in Bava Metzia, Bikurim has the same status as Truma. As we said, the word Bechor, Bikurim comes from the word Bechor. It's the first of the fruits or the grains that ripen. When do you make the declaration? In addition to bringing it, only at the time of Simcha. When's the time of Simcha? From Shuas through the end of Sukkot. So the Malaki Tuoso, Opeiroso Vieno Mishamno. Person brings in his grain, his fruits, his wine, his oil. Of Minachag Ve'elech. From Sukkot onward, maybe Vieno Koreh. You bring the Bikurim, but one doesn't make the declaration of appreciation because it's only a time of Simcha. Atav Alevi, Afalevi Chai Bikurim, Imnoto B'tochoreim. The Levi, although he didn't have a portion of the land, you have to bring it from land that you own. The Levi, they have the cities, the Levium, the produce that grew in their cities. What about the ger? The ger has no portion of the land. Maybe the ger, the convert, he brings the bikurim because bikurim is innate in the first fruits of grain that ripen, although it's not his land. So he brings, but he doesn't make the declaration. He's not even to say the land that was given to our forefathers because he's a convert. Now, what is the concept? You only make the declaration in the time of Simcha. What is Simcha? When a person is bringing his harvest and he sees the profits and the opportunity, he's in a state of joy, then he has a capacity to have this feeling of positiveness, to be able to express his appreciation, his boldness. Once that time passes, one doesn't make the declaration, although you have to be no less appreciative. It's only during this time. We explained yesterday that the only Torah obligation where you have to express that you're a debtor is only by the Bikurim. Because we said here, there's no wiggle room. There's no ifs or buts, that the only reason why you have this produce is because God gave you land. This is God-given. This is the first of the fruits of the grain, the produce of the land that you have given us. So, and we recount from the time Yaakov had fled from Lavan and how God saved him, how we went to Egypt and we came out of Egypt. And now we've come to the land and God gave us the land and this is our portion and this is the produce of that portion. But nevertheless, to be appreciative, you have to feel that you're a beneficiary. If the money's coming in, the profits are coming in, you feel that. Once it's already something of the past, as we say, you're no longer touched by the blessing, because it's something of the past. People have short memories. Although we know, but emotionally, speaking, it's not the same thing. I'll give you an example. I'll give you something you never expected you would receive from me. When I give it to you, you're touched. But as time passes, although you know I gave it to you and I changed your life, it's not the same as when you first received it. Because it's something I didn't expect. When the harvest is coming in, whether it's the grain, the fruit, the wine, the oil, and it keeps coming one after another, and it's clear this is only God giving, is God given, because I wouldn't have the land, I wouldn't have this context of blessing. You must express your appreciation. Once it's somehow it calms down, it's something of the past, you no longer have that appreciation. There's a story I once told over, which I'm not sure if Paul Reichman shared this with this person or it was his father. There was a time his father lived in Belgium, in Antwerp. And Paul Reichman's father was a wealthy man also, not to the same degree of wealth, but he was a wealthy man. And the rabbi called up Mr. Reichman. It says that he needs a very sizable amount of money for whatever it was. And Paul Reichman's father said he's not coming home till about 11:30, 12 o'clock. And it's not a problem. He will give him the money, but he should come tomorrow. Rabbi says, no, I'm coming tonight. I'll come tonight. He says, but it's late. You're going to have to stay up late and come to take the money. I'll give it to you tomorrow. He says, no, I prefer to come tonight. So the rabbi comes about 12:31 in the morning and takes the money from Reichman's father, whatever was a sizable amount of money. And so Mr. Reichman says to the rabbi, you could have come. There was no reason to inconvenience yourself to come so late at night. You could have come tomorrow. He says, I understand. It's not, God forbid, I suspect that you're going to go back on your word. That's why I came tonight rather than tomorrow. That's not the reason. Tonight, when I come, since you made the money today, it's called profits. You're lending me from your profits. Tomorrow, it's principal. It's no longer profits. It's easier to give from profits than giving from principal. That's what he shared with him. Therefore, I wanted to make the challenge less challenging tonight than tomorrow. Challenge would be a greater challenge tomorrow. When the profits come in, you bring in the harvest, you're in that state of ecstasy, happiness, that you see the blessing continuously, unceasingly coming. You have that, it's easier to be appreciative. You know, you can sing God's praises when everything's going great. To sing God's praises of something of the past, especially when it somehow plateaus, not so simple. It's when things, to sing God's praises is special, and to be appreciative of something of the past, not when everything is perfect and it keeps getting better. That's not a great challenge. That's not a great accomplishment. Therefore, since Bikurim is an expression of one's gratitude, God only puts us in that position to make that declaration when it comes natural, because it's harvest time at various levels, whatever is being harvested at the particular moment. But it wanted, so the Samach Chol HaTov, the Gemara says, when do you make the declaration? At the time of Simcha. I explained it a little differently. It says, after you bring the Bikurim and you make the declaration, it says, you prostrate yourself before God. We find by Eliezer Eved Avram, he was told by his master Avram to find a wife for Yitzchak, and he gave him certain criteria that he had to meet. It had to be from his family and not from anyone else. Otherwise, he cancels the agency. And finally, he prays and gives certain signs. And sure enough, he finds seemingly the maiden who's going to be Yitzchak's wife, the future matriarch of Klal Yisrael, he goes and he negotiates with Rivka's parents. And finally, they acquiesce and they're agreeable that Rivka come back. The Torah tells us Eliezer prostrates himself. It says, Vayishtach l'fnei Hashem. Eliezer bows, he prostrates himself before Hashem. So Rashi over there says on that, when he heard the good tidings that they're going to release her to go back and she will be the future matriarch of the Jewish people, he bowed before Hashem. So Rashi cites Chazal. From here we learn that you give thanks to Hashem for good tidings. You give thanks for Besura Tova, for a good tidings. You say thank you. So I asked the question. Person gives you $1 million cash. The Torah has to tell me you say thank you. It's understood you say thank you. Especially if what's given to you was something is the ultimate. It's the ultimate level of achievement. This woman is going to be the future matriarch of the Klal Yisrael. So it's understood you say thank you. When he bowed and he prostrated himself, from here we learn you give thanks for Besura Tova. How do we understand it? So the way I explained it was this, that you could say thank you. And the question is, why does one say thank you? It's an expression of appreciation. But even when we say thank you, when we appreciate, there are different levels of appreciation. The more humble a person is, the greater the level of sense of beholdenness to that person. I'm not worthy. So the less worthy a person feels, the capacity to appreciate what's given to him is to a greater capacity. Eliezer was a very special person. If you read the narrative, everything's attributed to Hashem. Everything's attributed, it's because it's the merit of Avram. It has nothing to do with his experience or what his capability is. Although he administered all Avram's holdings. Everything he attributed to the merit of Avram. So to be appreciative, meaning that you feel unworthy, and despite that unworthiness, you receive it, the thanks is a greater thank you. Elias understood that. So how do you internalize that gift that was given to you you feel you're the ultimate beneficiary? You have to negate yourself. The more you negate yourself, the greater is your capacity to appreciate. And Eliezer knew that. So by actualizing the negation through prostration, he was able now to sense the value that it has nothing to do with him, the value of what he received. Therefore, that's the takeaway. That Eliezer bowed, that means you have to do whatever you can to be fully appreciative, that whatever's in your capacity of being appreciative. That's what we learn from there. Now, a person doesn't have what to eat. And the morsel of bread will make a difference between life and death. And somebody gives you a morsel of bread. It may be worth less than a cent. Knowing that you will not live and you will not survive unless you have a morsel of bread. What's your level of appreciation to that person? He's giving you your life. At that moment. So that moment, but if you give somebody else that piece of bread, although you may satisfy his hunger, it's a different reality. One, you've given him his life. The other person, you satisfy hunger, even though the hunger pains may have been excruciating. Doesn't make a difference. One is life versus relieving pain, satisfaction, different level. You bring the Bikurim and you attribute everything you have, all the blessing you attribute to Hashem. And you bring the first of your fruits, which is most precious to the farmer. And you make your declaration going back, recounting from Yaakov, being saved from Lavan. If not for God's intervention, Yaakov and his family would have been destroyed. We went to Egypt. We came out of Egypt. We come to the promised land. We have the land is the produce of the land. And there's no ifs or buts. Like we said, there's no wiggle room. Everything is God. But there's still me. Who am I? You know what? God gave it to us because we're special. The moment you attribute any reason why you're deserving of this, that minimizes the level of appreciation. You gave it to me because. So therefore, how are you fully appreciative? To the maximum capacity of a person. When you prostrate yourself in the Temple Mount, and you have a sense of the Shekhinah, of God's presence there, and you've negated, so machtum chalatov. Now you can rejoice in any goodness that God gives you. It may be something which is minuscule. Whatever God gives you, you're appreciative. You rejoice in everything God gives you. Because since you feel, you sense, you have no worthiness, and you're only a beneficiary of God, and you've actualized those feelings, therefore it's v'samachtum chalatov. You rejoice in all goodness. Anything that's good, you have simcha. It's like somebody gives a person $1, and the person doesn't say thank you. He says, what can I do with $1? Doesn't make a difference. I've given you something, you have to be appreciative. You have to rejoice. We find that Yaakov, when he was confronted with the angel and he fought until dawn, why did he go back? He went back for Caleb, for Pachim Ketanim. Yaakov was a very wealthy man. We see what the gift that he sent to Esau. But yet, Chazal tell us that he went back because he had forgotten earthenware vessels that were nearly worthless. Why? So the Gemara says, from here we learn, regarding Shechavivin, by tzadikim, Chavivin Mamoni Yosef Bikurim, that a tzaddik, he values the money as much as he values his life. Meaning, if it's God-given, you never know. If God gave it to you, it has value. Otherwise, God would have given it to him. Therefore, you can't minimize, although the value may be nearly worthless, but if it's something that you have no right just to let it go. If it's within your capacity to retrieve it. What's the idea? Yaakov appreciated everything as much as he had, even what had nearly no worth. He valued that. Because Yaakov was what? Was Yaakov Ishtam Yisholim. He was humble. And because he had that level of humility, and that's why he said, when Esav said, Yeshli Rov, what does Yaakov said? Yeshli Kol. Esav says, but I have so much. Yaakov says, I'm nearly there. Yaakov says, I have everything. Because whatever God gives him, he doesn't expect more. Because the whole value, his value is only doing the will of Hashem. There's no such a thing as for myself. Everything's for God. Therefore, I have everything. If God gave me this, I don't need more than that. Because if I needed more to serve him, he would give me more. So the Pachim Ketanim, the earthenware vessels, if they were given to him, evidently it's within the realm of serving God. Therefore, he went back even for the earthenware vessels, which nearly had no worth. Sheni Yud Beis. Kischal laser es kol maser truoscha b'shana shlish shnas hamaser. When you finish tithing all your produce in the third year, now the third year of the sabbatical year, the first and second year sabbatical year, we take 10%. You take 10% to give to the Levi, and the second 10%, what do you do with it? You give it to the Ma'aser Sheni. You take it and you eat in Yerushalayim. First and second year of sabbatical year. The third year of sabbatical year, what do you do with the second 10%? You give it to charity to the poor. That's called Masa Oni. So it's the third year, we only have one Maser of the previous 2 years. First 2 years, you had a repetition. 10% Levi, 10% you take to Yerushalayim. The third year, you only have one of those two Mases, one of those 10%. The 10% you give to the Levi. Was the second 10% you don't take to Yerushalayim, but you give it to the poor. So we're talking about at that time, And what do you do with that second 10%? You give the Levi who has no portion of the land, to the convert who has no portion of the land, so they're in need of money. La Yosel Almona, to the orphan, to the widow, and they will eat it in their communities, and they will be sated. Meaning you have to give them something, you can't give them something which will not save them. You have to give them something substantial of that Maisa Onik. You have to meet minimally that criteria. Okay? So now, Vamartu Fnei Hashem Elokecho, and you say before Hashem, Bi'arti HaKodesh Min Habayis, I've removed all that was holy from my house, meaning all the tithes that it was meant to give, whether it was Truma to the Kohen, or the Bikurim also, or the Trumas Meiser, the 10% that was meant to be given to the Kohen, or was meant to give into the Levi. And I've given the Masa'oni 10% to the poor, to the widow. As you've commanded me. I didn't violate your mitzvah, and I did not forget. And whatever it speaks about over here, about Masasheni, at the end of Pasuk 14, Shamatu kol Hashem Elokoi. I've heeded the dictate of Hashem, the voice of Hashem, my God, or Sisi kol Hashitzi B'Soni. I've done all that you've commanded me. Now, this is important. Shamati kol Hashem Elokoi, Hevesiv lebeis habechira, meaning he's referring to the Bikurim. I've brought the Bikurim to the Temple Mount. Osis kol hashitzi visoni. Now, look what Rashi says. I've done all that you've commanded me. Somachti v'simachti bo. I've rejoiced and I've made others happy with this. So I asked the question. We're talking about serious percentages of profits. The Truma, the Bikurim, the 10% to the Levi, 10% to the poor. So we're talking about significant amount of money you're giving away. So in Hebrew, the word simachti. I brought joy to other people's lives. But the person doesn't have, and I've given them, of course, I brought joy. But two things the person says. Somachti, I've rejoiced, and I've made others happy. Now, when you give that kind of percentage away, how are you samachti? You have to be samachti. Samachti v'simachti. And therefore, because samachti v'simachti, what does the next pasuk say? Person makes a supplication. You should gaze down from your heavenly, holy abode from heaven. And bless you, Jewish your people, Israel. That you promised to our forefathers, so Rashi over here says, why should you look, when you look down from your heavenly abode and gaze down, why are we deserving of this blessing? We've done what you've told us to do. We've given away all the tithes that we're meant to give away. We've done ours, now you do what you said. Now, what does Hashem say? What is he supposed to do? You've told us that if we walk in your statutes, so by giving away the tithes, we listen to your statutes, as it says, now we're deserving of the blessing. That's Rashi. He's citing Chazal. Now the question is, there's an obvious question. If you look in it's the last portion in Vayikra, what does it say there? Into Amelam Torah. If you toil in the Torah, then the bounty, the rains will come, the bounty will be unlimited. That's Mchosei Teilechu. Into Amelam Torah. Here, Rashi cites the Chazal. Why are we worthy of the blessing? Because we've given away the tithes. We've done what you've decreed upon us. We've done ours. Now you do ours. Now you do ours. What did we do? So it simply means it's not so simple to give away that kind of profit. But since we have, now we're deserving of the bounty. Is what is being dedicated, toiling in Torah. The Torah is first and foremost. So how do we reconcile it? So what I said in the past was this. To be able to be worthy of the blessing, we said, so we asked, making the recipient happy, he's happy. But the one who gives it away, he has to give it away with happiness. That this is opportunity. This is the ultimate privilege. When does one achieve that level, that understanding that giving it away is not giving it away? When you do it in the context of doing the will of Hashem. That's only if a person toils in Torah, and Torah is primary, and the Torah is the essence of his life, and he's spiritualized to that degree, only then could you internalize that the only value of the material is only to facilitate the spiritual. So that the person can be samachti, that he can rejoice giving away these kinds of percentages, that's a confirmation that he met the level, the standard of what Amelim, the Torah is. Therefore, that's what the person says. Since I was able to be samachti, that's a confirmation, that I've met that standard, that I was omel. Therefore, as a result of that, gaze down from your heavenly abode and give me the blessing of that it should be a land that flows with milk and honey.